This special call meeting is for the Board of Commissioners to discuss with SRJ and Eddie Hinman, Chairman, the Library Board of Trustees, on how to move forward with this project. This is not a public hearing. Citizens are welcome to give input anytime on any project at the board's public forum or through email addresses to the board. No vote will be made today. The only discussion will be with the SRJ, Eddie Hinman, and the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
I think most of you know I'm Sonia Spollinger, and what Bruce and I have tried to do is put together the facts as we know them right now with some of the things that we've been able to come up with up until this point that might give you some ideas of what we think we could do or couldn't do and that kind of thing. So if you'll just bear with me for a few minutes. And, first of all, I'd like to go over when we signed our contract, which was June 1st. This is the attachment that was there, and at that point we were dealing with 400 seats in the conference center, 400 seats. And the budget number there was $4,891,000. That did not include our land cost, because at the time we didn't have our property decided yet. So it was roughly 250. I've got on another slide, I think 250,000, 254,000, something like that. So 4,891,511. And some of these items in here were estimates at that time. We didn't have actual costs from some of the other consultants that would be contracted directly with the owner. But our contract was really based on this top number, which was $3,707,344. That was our limitation for the work that we were designing at that point. So by the time we got to design development, this is an estimate that we did in January 2010, so about a year later, and this was what was required to submit to the State Library Board with our design development drawings. And we did this estimate there, and at that time we were still $3,777,000, which is a little slightly above what we were there, but very close. And then, you know, that's the number we're comparing back to that number on the other slide. This was a contingency and some of the things that we had as deductive alternates that would get us back to that number. When we finished the construction documents and we were getting ready to send those to the State Library Board and send those in, this is a quote out of a letter with a lot of attachment things that Bruce sent to Mr. Hours, and that was discussed. And at that time, our estimate for that portion of the work was $3,974,138. And as you see here, we felt that that increase was due to the square footage because there was an extension of the conference center to accommodate some porch coverings and things that were asked to be covered, mechanical room configuration. And then we also added the audiovisual system in the conference room. So those things took it up to $3,974,138. right before we put it out for bids. This was right before we sent it to the state. So this chart is kind of a comparative of where we thought we were, where we actually came in. This is what you were given by Mr. Hours that reflected all the percentages and everything based on the bids. The numbers that are in yellow, if you can kind of tell, it's hard on the screen, but those are the things that changed between the point where we signed a contract, what we had estimated, and what we gave you for your meeting the other day. And you know, you can see when we signed the contract that was 4.8 and this is 6.3. So, but when we did that estimate, when you plug that number, it was the 5.442. But I want to caution you, and the reason I have this is that what it seems that everybody's doing is comparing the 6.3 back to this 4.8. Really what, you know, our estimate was at the time we were told to move on was the 6.3 minus this, which would that be, that would be how much we're over. But a lot of these numbers, including our fee and the contingency and all those, are percentage based. So as we adjust, what we're actually over is, we came in at $4,803,000. Our estimate was $3,974,000. So we're over $829,440. As we get this number down, this number will come down with it in turn because it's percentage related, and when you change one, it changes the other. So this is really the dollar amount that we feel like we're over. And so we've gone back and we've gone through with the contractor. We've got some suggestions from them. That's still a work in progress. They're still working on it. There's some of the things that we haven't their list and our list that are to be determined. We don't really know a cost figure yet, but we've got a list of ideas that we're going to go through with you of the things that we think that we can. We don't feel like we can get back to that number without cutting the square footage. It's just costing more than what we had anticipated. But we think we can get $300,000–400,000 out of that number, which if we got that out, that will in turn with percentages reduce this overage. So this is really the number we're looking at. So we'll tell you what we think you could take out without really changing the integrity of the building. And then you can decide beyond that point if you want to take square footage out to get all the way back down to that 829 number. So Bruce, I'm going to hand it over to Bruce, and he's going to go through our list of these things and the things from the contractor. I might need to adjust that a little.
Everybody read that fairly well? This is a list that we have put together of possible value engineering items. Item number 1, reduce the number of parking spaces. Particularly, we're thinking of one-row parking at the conference center. Item number 2, changing the 8-inch graded aggregate base to 6-inch and reduce heavy-duty paving. We're estimating about $124,000 for that, and that is actually the preliminary price I've gotten from the contractor. But his numbers are still can vary some, and those are not hard numbers yet. Item 3, reduce the amount of the sod that we have on site. That cost we're still looking at, that's to be determined. Item 4, there's possible changes that we can do on the irrigation system as well, and that cost we're still looking at. Number 5, change the exterior windows and doors to an aluminum storefront type, and we can estimating about a savings of $10,000 to $15,000 there. Item 6, changing the lighting. And I have an attached sheet that describes in a little bit more detail. We're thinking around $76,200. Item 7, change floor and wall tile per the attached sheet, and we'll see that on the next slides. Approximately $10,000. Item 8, change carpet allowance from $35 to $25 per square yard, and that's also on an attached sheet. Another slide, around $20,000 for that. Item 9, delete interior brick pavers and provide a porcelain tile floor. The preliminary price we have from the contractor is $10,600, and these are all deductive prices. And item 10, delete the walk-off mats. We have a price of about $9,000. Number 11, change brick allowance from $400 to $300 per thousand, and we feel we can save around $17,000 on that. And item 12, change the mortar allowance from $16 to $12 per bag, which gives you a rough total of around $320,200 in possible value engineering.
That total does not include the items that we have to be
They're,
determined. We don't know what those are.
and that's just our estimate. Our list. The contractor has some additional items on his list, and we have not really had a chance to evaluate those. Some of them may be good, and some of them we may not recommend.
What's a walk-off, man?
That's like you see a lot of time at entrances, just as you come in the entrance door, that's kind of a little grate or has little carpet strips recessed in the floor that helps bring the dirt, get the dirt off your shoes before you enter the building. So that's what those are. And we have those at all the major entrances of the building.
I thought when we was talking about the parking lot, at one time I thought somebody mentioned that the state mandated you had so many parking spaces for.
They do, and your Lee County code does not specifically address a conference center. And so we base the number of parking spaces on other counties' conference center recommendations. And we tried to get as many in there because y'all felt like, you know, if you're seating 400, you needed to try and get as many in there as possible. But we have talked to Mr. Alexander, and we've since then, and we've tried to see what minimum, and some of the similar things that your code does address are stadiums, assembly type spaces like that. And based on that, we feel like we can reduce, if we use that as our guide point, we can reduce a whole strip of parking, a whole section that we have that's furthest away from the building. And that's what that number is based on. That doesn't give you enough parking, you know, for, it was 168, is that what we ended up with? 168 for the conference center side. And, you know, so if you can just kind of think about that, if you're seating 400 people in there, there's 168 parking places. Depending on what type of event it is, you could have people that are carpooling, so it would be fine, like in a church or it's a family wedding or something, you're going to have more than one person per car. If it's an actual conference, you might have more people driving individually, so we can meet the code recommendations. What we've also looked at on that is if we do that where we would have had that parking, we would have a curb cut so that you can have overflow parking into a grassed area that if you had a large crowd like that. But based on what is recommended for an assembly or that type of space in your county, we could meet that by removing one whole bay of parking.
Does that answer your question?
Bruce, is this all predicated on the 400 seating capacity?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is, yes.
But didn't you send, I think I received an email from you yesterday, if we cut the capacity down from 400 to 300, that would save $283,000.
Right, that would be reducing the building square footage.
Right. These would be the type of things we would want to look at first, and then get comfortable with what you wouldn't mind reducing as far as the level of quality and things in the building. And then after we get to that point where we're comfortable, then we'll know how many square feet we would need to take off to get back to your, whatever your budget number that you feel like it is. So, you know, if we take all these out, then our square footage cost will be less that we're working on to take off how many square feet we take off. So right now our square footage cost is about $169 a square feet. If we were able to reduce about $320,000, then I haven't done the numbers on that, but it would reduce our square footage cost. So we wouldn't have to take as many square feet off to get to that point.